I'm not entirely sure that Jeremiah Smith picked the absolute best time to start running his mouth. The star Ohio State wide receiver, and he is a star wide receiver. He is incredibly good. There is absolutely nothing. I have nothing against Jeremiah Smith. He's really, really good. Promises to never lose to Michigan again at Ohio State. He says, quote, "I just hate them." You know, hate is wrong. Okay, anyway. Just something about them. For the next 2 years, I promise you, I will not lose to them. I can't lose to them in the next 2 years. Me. Now, is that what he's intending here? I have no idea. But why in the world? First off, he just declared for the 2027 draft. Hat tip to Tom Fornelli for that one. Although we were all thinking it. I tweeted that before I saw Tom Fornelli's tweet about him declaring for the 2027 draft. Like, all right, so he's basically saying right off the bat, I'm gone after the junior year. So, and I feel like we probably all knew that. But he's just saying it right out there. And then number two, why would you say something like that after, again, Michigan picks up a massive 4-star edge recruit in Julian Walker? Bit of a shocking pickup. He was thought to be a South Carolina lean. We'll get to that in a second. But the 4-star edge here from Hayes Fawcett. 4-star edge Julian Walker has committed to Michigan. The 6'6", 250-pound edge from Columbia, South Carolina, chose the Wolverines over North Carolina and South Carolina. Wow, that feels almost as blasphemous as being recruited by Ohio State and Michigan. But it's better when Michigan gets you, so I'll let it pass. This is a massive pickup. The defensive line, especially edge rushers, have been really good to Michigan this recruiting cycle. They have been recruiting like crazy at that position, and Isaiah Hull was saying the exact same thing. We can't start every discourse on Michigan football recruiting by saying the Wolverines are on a heater, can we? Of course we can, Isaiah. What are you talking about? They are on a heater. And it doesn't appear to be slowing down, he says. One area where the Maize and Blue have thrived is the 2026 recruiting trail in the trenches. The offensive line has a ton of promise with 4 stars Malachi Lee, Marky Walbridge, and Bear McWhorter pledged, but defensive line recruiting has been on another level. The Wolverines have 5-star edge rusher Carter Meadows, 4-star edge rusher Mikhail Blade, and 4-star tackles Titan Davis and Alistair Vallejo, and 3-star edge rusher Tariq Boney committed already. And now they've got the 4-star Julian Walker. What an incredible thing. Michigan's defensive line, and frankly, the offensive line as well, are going to be incredible. They're going to be very good. And the trenches, is where you need to start if you want to win championships. That's where Michigan was with the 2023 championship. The trenches were everything. Without the trenches, Michigan doesn't win that championship. Michigan doesn't win the last 4 years against Ohio State. And they're doing the same thing. They're loading up in the trenches, whereas Ohio State's doing what? Yeah, they've got their wide receivers, they've got their running backs, they've got their defensive backs and stuff like that. And don't get me wrong, they're good, for sure. But why are these coaches forgetting about the offensive line and the defensive line? And now we're at a point where Michigan is starting to steal some of those recruits from Ohio State. Is it because Michigan is O-line U and defensive line U? D-line U, I guess. I think there's an argument to be made there. Julian Walker was thought to be a strong South Carolina lean due to his father being on the strength staff at South Carolina. In South Carolina. In Columbia, Irmo, South Carolina. I thought it was I think it's at the Gamecocks, though. I thought he was the defensive on the strength staff at South Carolina itself. But either way, that's the thing. They thought that Julian Walker here was going to South Carolina. There were South Carolina fans saying if Julian Walker commits to Michigan, they're going to have a Buckeye level meltdown. And they did. It's pretty awesome. Julian Walker says that he's beyond grateful for the opportunity to be a Michigan man. What a thing. He was also strongly considering North Carolina, USC, and had offers from Auburn, Kentucky, Syracuse, NC State, Virginia Tech, and others. Yeah, so Michigan beat out a lot a lot of players or a lot of schools rather, for Julian Walker. The next really interesting thing about Michigan recruiting is, they've already got some pretty solid wide receiver commitments coming in. They already do. But Travis Johnson here, 4-star wide receiver, is down to 7 schools, and he's announcing his commitment July 4th at noon. Now, how likely is it that he comes to Michigan? I'm not really sure. I haven't seen crystal balls. Looks like a Michigan to me, Gamecocks. I haven't seen any crystal balls saying that he's coming to Michigan or anything that basically says where he's going, period. But man, is there a Michigan presence in his comments. Bro, this is Indiana. Come win a natty here. I love it. That's amazing. Yeah. So, but if Michigan ends up getting wide receivers like this is changing the game for Michigan football. Michigan is now at a point where it's recruiting. I mean, it's always recruited, I think, defensive line pretty well, offensive line pretty well. I mean, they're known for their lines for sure. Wide receivers, though, I mean, they've had good ones. They had Tariq Black. They had Donovan Peoples-Jones. I think Ronnie Bell was a 3-star, but he sticks out in my mind because he was awesome. Ronnie Bell was awesome. But they haven't had consistency at the wide receiver position, or at least bringing in the consistent 4 or 5-star talents. Those guys that are tall, big, that can win the 50-50 balls, things like that. They're starting to actually get into the conversation for those types of players. And if they start winning those players, you need to watch out. You need to watch out because at that point, Michigan really does solidify itself as the team to beat in the Big Ten, which is kind of funny to say so, even though, they lost 5 games last year and 2 of which were to Illinois and Indiana. So, but whatever, that season, it is what it is. It was a weird one. That's for sure, but we'll just call it a rebuilding year. Michigan, with this latest pickup, moves up to number 8 in the overall recruiting rankings, according to 247 Sports. They are now just 3 spots away from unseating the Ohio State Buckeyes at the number 5 position. And they have officially moved a couple of spots ahead of Penn State as well, despite their 23 commitments. They've got a good class coming in, Penn State does. But they've unseated them. They have overtaken Alabama as well, which is huge. A top 8 class. That's nothing to hold your nose at. That's pretty good, especially where Michigan, Michigan used to be in the bottom 10s. Or teens rather, so usually around 10, stuff like that. I mean, this class is generational. Dare I say it? This is the class itself. I think I've talked about it quite a lot at this point. But I mean, it's kind of hilarious, some of the meltdown that has been happening. And frankly, also just the amount of celebration that's been going on in the comment section. I wanted to go through a couple of comments here. Matt Drew Drums says, provided the trenches hold up, I think this man forgot we bagged 2 5-star O linemen in last year's class. I did. I absolutely forgot that was the case. So you're absolutely right. I will even give you a heart on your comment because I heart your comment. Shep Doodle says, Walker just committed. This class is stellar, and I think Bryce Underwood is part of the selling point to some of these guys because this kid is generationally good. If I was a wide receiver, I'd want to come play with him for sure. Where are we at? 9 minutes? Yeah, I think you're right. I think Bryce Underwood has the chance of being a generational quarterback at Michigan for more than one reason. I think that the fact that Michigan was able to pull him in gives them the ability to then look at other major recruits and say, look, we've got the quarterback position figured out. We've got that piece in play. We're ready to go there. And then the wide receivers can all be like, okay, yeah, well, they've got someone who's actually going to throw me the ball. I'm going to go there. I think that was kind of maybe some of the question before is, and I think maybe JJ McCarthy went a little bit of a ways, or did some stuff to kind of turn that around because he was definitely chucking the ball very well. He had receivers that were catching. Roman Wilson was very good. I mean, I think that kind of started to change some of that narrative about Michigan being a run-first team, but I think a lot of wide receivers and maybe even some quarterbacks were still kind of looking at Jim Harbaugh like, I don't know. He's still running the ball a lot. Am I going to be able to showcase my talents? And that kind of kept them away. Now you've got a guy last year. I mean, everybody's looking at Sharon Moore. Is it going to be more of the same? No pun intended. Or is he going to start doing his own thing? And we're starting to see that he is doing his own thing. Kirk Campbell notwithstanding, unfortunately, things just didn't work out with him. He brings in, what's his name? Mike Lindsay? Something Lindsay. I can't remember his name. Oh, crap. The new OC brings him in, and things are actually starting to look like they're making the passing game more of a feature of the offense rather than just a, hey, we do this every once in a while. Who knows? And people are starting to pick up on that. Recruits are starting to pick up on that. I think that's a thing for sure. Frank Ramatra says, this is stupid. Okay. As a lifelong Michigan fan from the state of Ohio, I know that a large chunk of OSU fans aren't even football fans, but recruiting fans. Yeah, that's really true. I feel like there's more cheering for Ohio State from Ohio State fans during recruiting season than there is during the actual season, especially after they lose to Michigan. It's all they have to justify what most feel is their right of football superiority. What most fail to realize is that in the 80s and 90s, Michigan often out-recruited OSU nationally because they did indeed pay players under the table. What, Michigan did? I don't know. I wasn't alive until 94, so I don't know anything. That changed institutionally after the embarrassment of the Ed Martin scandal. Don't know anything about that either, actually. This happened to coincide with the Jim Tressel and Urban Meyer eras. Imagine that. Really, though, who gives a whoop because Michigan has been smashing them on their own field, in front of their own dumbstruck fans. If it took you as a Buckeye fan till now to panic, then it's already too late. That's hilarious. I like it. I went to Michigan. Roman Moroni says, I went to Michigan for the school and the environment. Ann Arbor was a small town then. Yeah. As a student, you soon learn that you can get a good undergrad education, but the school really prides its graduate studies program. Dude, tell me about it. I asked my thesis advisor at Western Michigan if I had a shot at getting a doctorate at Michigan, and he just shakes his head like, no. You know what's really funny, though? I asked him about Ohio State, and he just goes, actually, yeah, you'd probably get it. So I couldn't get into Michigan, but I had a shot at Ohio State. What does that tell you? The real difference between Michigan and Ohio State, I'm sure it happens, but I never hear of anyone saying they're going to OSU for an advanced degree. Well, yeah, I mean, you don't go to Ohio State for an advanced degree unless you want to get really good at salting French fries, but I think that's about it, honestly. OSU fans are so dumb, they all say the same three things. That's from Jack Package 4278. That name sounds inappropriate. I know some Ohio State fans that are not dumb. They're really good people. NPC University from Wyans 88. That's hilarious. NPC University. You get a heart for that one. That's amazing. I love it. Macala Richards. That's dangerously close to my name, dude. Ohio State can't say anything about Michigan about requirement when that poached Alabama players after Nick Saban retire. Okay, I think I know what you're saying. Some of you folks need to download Grammarly. I'm just saying. Heron78. Oh my gosh. Okay, we're at 14 minutes, so I'll probably call this the last one. Heron78. Absolutely, OSU fans panicking. Ohio Sports Radio is hilarious. 2,040 days and undefeated Natty trumps 2-loss Natty. I completely agree with that. I think, again, Ohio State's Natty run was awesome. They did really well in the playoffs, and they deserve that. They really do. But, like, you know, they shouldn't have been in the playoffs to begin with because the playoffs shouldn't have expanded. They were a 2-loss team. They lost to 6-5 Michigan. What are we doing here, guys? And this is why I think that the expanding the playoff is just watering down the regular season, and that's just really frustrating. I remembered I actually do want to cover this one. I didn't know what oh yeah, that was the Jeremiah Smith nonsense. Buckeyes battle cry. These guys are awesome. If you're not subscribed to Buckeyes Battle Cry, these guys know their stuff. They cover Ohio State football, obviously. And they're just super cool dudes. So go give them a follow. They're awesome. Been a heck of a week and a half for the Wolverines on the trail. Things are just getting started, and the play on the field is going to determine if UM can keep this class together. I agree that both will finish top 5. A long way to go until signing day in December, though, says Peter. Yeah, that's the only thing. That's the only thing. You know, Bryce Underwood was committed to LSU basically until the last day. And then he all of a sudden flips to Michigan. So anything can happen. And I do think that the on-field product for Michigan, I agree with this completely. The on-field product for Michigan is massively important this season. Anything less than 10-2, and you run the risk of losing a lot of these recruits. The recruits have to see the proof of concept. They've got to see Bryce Underwood play, and they've got to see him play well. And yeah, that means that there's going to be a lot of pressure on him, and they need to figure out a way to keep the pressure off of him. I mean, if you've got to hand the ball off, then hand the ball off. But the thing is that you cannot lose more than 2 games this season, or else you start to run the risk of these players decommitting, and then we're back into that recruiting hell cycle, if you will. That being said, I think Michigan's going to win at least 10 games. I've gone on the record saying that I see 11-1 as reasonable, and the only reason I say 11-1 is because it's really difficult to go 12-0, but I don't see why they can't go 12-0. Like I've said in previous videos, people are really thinking long and hard about Oklahoma. Maybe they're a sleeper. I have yet to see it. I don't really trust Brent Venables. But I also don't really like road night games at SEC stadiums. I don't know. That game right now feels like a 50-50 to me, leaning Michigan. But I will tell you this, if Michigan wins that game and wins it definitively, by a couple of scores, then they have a really good shot at going 12-0, winning the Big Ten and making a run in the playoffs. And I do think that they'll beat Ohio State. I don't like Ohio State's chances at the Big House this season, especially with the way that Michigan is rebuilding their defense. I mean, my goodness, it's going to be crazy. Anyway, with that, Peter, you have earned yourself a heart on the comment. Congratulations, sir. We're going to leave it there. If you're not subscribed, go ahead and do that because it's free, and we really need your money. Well, okay, you don't pay to subscribe. That's free, because I just said that. But when you do subscribe, that pushes us up the YouTube algorithm, which gets us more in ad revenue, which, I mean, we're desperate. Thus the clickbaity titles. Anyway, so go ahead and subscribe. Let me know what you think about it all in the comment section. Where do you see Michigan going? Do you think that the on-field product this year is going to be enough to keep this class intact? Are we finishing with a top 5 class? Are we beating out the Buckeyes for the better recruiting class? Let me know what you guys think in the comment section. Go ahead and give the video a like, and we will catch you in the next video.